I think it's inevitable that after you spend some time as an executive chef, your idea of quality of life begins to differ greatly from those outside of our industry. I don't really have an opinion of whether that's right or wrong, but I do know that there's a collection of things that we can do to significantly improve ours. Stick around until the end of this video because I'm going to share with you what I think are some of the most important beyond the food skills to improve your quality of life. And if you're looking to build and train your team to improve their effectiveness and yours inside and outside of the kitchen, click the link below the video in the description to talk with me and discover how I can support you in the same way that I've supported these chefs through Beyond the Food. One of the questions that I'm often asked is, how do I feel about finding balance? And I think that's a really tricky topic to dive into, right? Because I think balance is a little bit of a myth, and it's also a little bit of an unreasonable expectation in the world that we live. I think it's really important to, I guess, just look at it from a very high level and say, realistically, if you're spending 10 hours a day at work and you need to sleep for 8, inevitably, you've only got 6 hours left to do whatever else that you're going to do. I think the better question to ask how that time is being spent, quality, intentionality. I think it's super important to talk about how you're transitioning from one area to the other. Now, for me, what I found worked most effectively, I like to start with the overarching goal of being a better chef at home and being a better husband and father in the kitchen. So to me, most chefs that I've ever interacted with, myself included, don't really have a problem with getting the work done at work. It's when it's time to take off that hat and go home. And so there's a couple little things that I do now, after almost 30 years in the business, that allow me to go home more prepared to be at home. The first concept is mise en placing for going home. I prepare for my day at work. I plan my day at work. I organize my day at work. I write a mise en place list for my day at work, right? My systems are set up for that. Generally, I listen to a particular playlist, or I'm listening to particular music, or I'm checking my emails, and I'm getting into the mode, whatever it is that I have to tackle for the day. And what I started doing some years ago was actually mise en placing for being at home, listening to a lower paced music or more home-like music on the way home, unpacking my day a little bit before I got home and preparing for the time when I walk in the door. Mise en placing to be at home, taking that practice of being a chef every day in the kitchen and applying that preparation to being at home. The next concept is what I would like to call the happy puppy. If you've ever had a dog, I've grown up with dogs. I absolutely adore them. And one of the things that I noticed was that it's really hard to be grumpy when your puppy gets super excited, tail wagging, and runs at you when you first walk in the door, right? So if I put myself in that mindset where I'm really excited, equivalent of tail wagging, when I walk in that door, people are going to be excited to see me as well. And I know I spent probably the better part of my 30s in a very grumpy place where I was worried about the things that I wasn't doing. I was concerned about the staffing issues that I had, and I really wasn't engaging fully at home. And then when I realized that I could definitely show up infinitely better by just being excited to be home, I would get a different response. I really like to spend my time thinking about what I can do to impact the world differently so that I see something different. Generally, if I'm grumpy, the people around me tend to be grumpy. If I put goodness out into the world, it tends to find its way back. So I really make it a point now on my way home to prepare and to put myself in this happy puppy mindset where I walk in the door like an excited puppy. The third piece of being a better chef at home is prioritizing events at home like we prioritize significant events in our kitchens. To me, weddings have always been super important. They're big revenue events. Inevitably, we have clients that we need to please. We have a staff that needs to be on the ball. And so these events tend to take precedence in our minds. I know for me, it always did. Board of directors, board of governors, executive meetings, member guest events, large weddings, large events, right? Like they inevitably occupy a ton of headspace, which lead to us preparing, planning, and executing effectively. But what about that Sunday when you've got a birthday at home? Does it get the same level of attention? Now, if you're anything like me, when I say that, I feel the wrench in my stomach because I know for years I never felt that way because nothing was ever as important as those events that I had to deal with at work. It was when I started to bridge that gap and find a way to make those events just as important, just as necessary for me to participate in that I found myself living a very different life outside of work, which inevitably had a major impact on my life inside of work. It's hard to be happy at work when the home life is challenged. And I know that firsthand. Been there. I've lived it. I've created terrible home environments before, and I've carried that into my office periods of my career. Prioritizing those family events that you'll never have another chance to see is actually a worthwhile investment of time. And for me, now it becomes a no-brainer. It becomes something that I need to figure out a way to resolve my organization and my approach to things so that I can effectively enjoy those times that I'll never have another chance to get to. I remember as a kid waiting for my dad to show up at my ball games. And this isn't me ragging on my dad. This is just me wishing that I would have seen my dad at my ball games. I realize now he was working, he was busy, he had things going on, he was a fireman. And so I think about all the times that he wasn't there, and I realize that it's really important to me to show up when I'm needed to be there. Prioritizing those events in the same way in my personal life, that's a big game changer. Now, on the other side of that, being a better husband and father in the kitchen, because I am those things, I think about the patience that I need to have with my daughter as she's learning how to walk or talk, taste new things. And I realize that I can apply that patience to the people in my kitchen, to the young cooks who are learning how to walk and talk in the kitchen, who are learning how to hold a knife, cut lettuce, cut an onion, because they haven't cut as many onions as I have. Of course, I'm more efficient at cutting an onion. Not for everybody, but I've definitely cut more onions than most. And so if I apply that patience and that understanding that at some point they will get it, because at some point my daughter will walk, I'll get a different result. When I'm being communicative with my wife for the betterment of our family, I can take that and I can apply that to the interactions that I have with the people that are around me and immediately get a better result. If I'm communicating for the better common good of our team, because to me in my world, my team is my family. I spend so much time with them very often that there's no way around considering them family. If I'm communicating with the goal of bettering the situation for the family, then the family's going to benefit. If I have that patience and I have that commitment to provide what my team needs, then inevitably I'm fulfilling my purpose in my role and ideally giving the people that are around me what they need. Now, I know this may seem crazy, but I've spent so much time in the kitchen that I don't know how to be two different people. So for me, bridging the gap to being a better husband and father in the kitchen and being a better chef at home makes the most sense. And I actually feel more complete and I'm a lot more whole when I approach things. This bumpy road required me to learn quite a few things, and it required that I understand the boundaries I needed in my life, the baselines of success for my operations, and the expectations my team needed for me to lead and execute. That's when I really started to wrap my hands around the issues that I had with my staffing, with my time management, with my team, with my systems, and in my personal life. It required that I look at things a bit differently, but I find myself in a much better place at the end of the day. I started off talking a little bit about balance, and this is where I think balance comes back into the conversation, because I think it's also in balancing how we react, how we expect, and how we interact. To me, balance is something that is just like excellence, where it's not something that's ever achieved, but it's always pursued. And I think it's really important to consider the type of balance that you're looking for as a chef. If you're looking for balance at a high level, if you're a performer in your operation and you want that balance, that performance in your home relationship, then to me, applying the skills that make you successful in the kitchen make you successful at home. It's a high level of balance that requires the development of some more skills. It's uncomfortable, but inevitably it will yield results. What eventually I came to realize was that my performance in the kitchen could be better because I needed to transition from being a foot soldier in my army in the kitchen to being the general of the operation. And that required a different set of skills for me to be more effective in administration and in all of those other pieces that would allow me to effectively manage my frontline cooks, my sous chefs, my leadership. If that resonates with you and you would like to have the step-by-step process that I implemented in my operation that allowed me to be a better chef at home, husband and father in the kitchen, so that I could lead, teach, and mentor the next generation of chefs and have a higher quality of life, click the link in the description below the video to schedule a call and learn how I can support you. Balance may be very difficult to define, but I know that quality and intentionality are completely in my control. As executive chefs, bridging our best traits between work and home leads to being a better chef at home and a better husband and father in the kitchen. I just want to encourage you to approach life with intentionality as well as the pursuit of excellence. Please like, share, and subscribe for more pieces like this beyond the food. I'll see you next time.